pushing out, you won't end up with a nice little round ball. After that point, just fold the ends of the smoked salmon over the top. And then pull the plastic up over. Just push very gently with your hands, pulling the excess plastic to the top. Once that process is done, you feel like it's a firm press of the inside to get a nice round ball. We can go ahead and pull it out from the mold. Use both hands to kind of twist the boule. And that gives you a nice rounded top. As you can see, it gets real hard and packed in here. Once again, you need to go back and reset this in a refrigerator. That way you get a nice, easy presentation. Holding the bottle fairly firmly, we just go back and just freely streak the plate. And just let it fall. Never is the plate ever the same. It always comes out a little different each time. What we do from there is then we go back and we put our boules right in the center in a little triangle, right over the top. What's really important, I mentioned a little bit the importance of the part of our culture is the olive oil that we use in our kitchen. And I like to use a real fruity olive oil just to glaze the top of these boules here to give them a really good flavor. And it's called Longorotti. Now, they're a very large winemaker throughout Europe, actually in Italy, and they make a really wonderful fruity olive oil that we use just to glaze the top of these and give it a most beautiful shine. Just a little bit on top to accent. You can tell the difference between the dull sheen of the smoked salmon earlier now as the olive oil brings it alive, not only in looks, but certainly in flavor.
A bouquet of mixed greens garnishes.
That we tie together with a little chive. We keep them wrapped up ahead of time with some wet paper towels to keep them fresh. What I do is, after that point, is I go back and I cut the bottom off so it stays nice and tight in the base of the plate. We'll go ahead and stick it in between the middle of the boules, and then we go ahead and finish it with a long chive out of the top. Okay, since the salad has really no dressing, what I like to use, as mentioned in your recipe, is a little bit of basil infused oil. Once again, we just go ahead and drizzle a little bit on the lettuce to give it a little bit of accent of flavor, and then we just drop it from the top of the plate. Like I mentioned, just kind of like it fell from the sky. This plate, we have a lot of little crunchy accents that we use. In this case, it's a little bit of lobster roe that's cooked and dried. It's used in a lot of our seafood dishes, and we use it just as a little bit of surprise on the plate to give a little, actually once again, a little texture and a little wonderful aroma. But it also gives a little throw of color onto the plate as well.
Frank Caputo is the executive chef at the River Course Country Club on the exclusive Kiowa Island, South Carolina. After getting a degree from the CIA, he worked several fancy clubs, mainly in Florida. He came to Kiowa Island in 1994. The entree features a southern favorite, shad roe paupiette. The chef begins a mushroom duxelle, ultimately a finely chopped mixture with sliced portobellos and shiitakes, yellow and ordinary oyster mushrooms sautéed in butter. Then chopped garlic, shallots, and diced bacon are added.
Add our minced bacon. We're featuring a red Bordeaux as the sauce. So we're going to add it to our mushrooms in deglazing. We add our herbs.
Sage and thyme. After all the wine has evaporated, the mixture is refrigerated, then will be finely chopped. Now the chef deals with the shad roe.
Okay, here we have shad roe. It's the roe from a shadfish, which is a fish that's indigenous to the area. It's right out of the Ashley River. They spawn at certain times of the year and produce the eggs. And here they remove the eggs, and they're a delicacy in the area. We take the roe, make sure that they're fairly clean, remove any sinew or any veins, anything that's you wouldn't care to eat, and then we'll season it with salt and pepper. And then dust it with a light bit of flour.
The roe is seared in olive oil.
Shake off any excess flour. The objective here is just to sear both sides very, very rapidly in order to help in the handling process as you place the plate together.
After about a minute per side, remove and allow to cool. Ultimately, the roe will be presented enrobed in thin potato slices. The potato goes onto buttered parchment paper, is painted with clarified butter, and oven blanched.
Piece of parchment paper. And another sheet pan on top to keep them straight. We bake this in the oven for approximately 5 to 6 minutes, and it actually blanches the potatoes and doesn't allow them to oxidize, to turn any colors that you don't want.
At 375. After blanching, the potato slices are refrigerated. The wild mushrooms have been chopped and assembly begins. The potato slices are overlapped on a piece of plastic wrap.
We take our shad roe, which has been seasoned, floured, and seared on both sides, and our mushroom duxelle, which has been cooled and diced up. And we form a layer of mushroom duxelle on top of the shad roe.
The overlapping potato slices are folded over, and the finished packet is wrapped tightly in plastic wrap and is refrigerated for 15 to 20 minutes. After cooling, the roe is browned in a nonstick pan. Then it's into a 425-degree oven for 5 minutes. The sauce is started by sautéing slices of shad with shallots.
Our red Bordeaux.
The same red Bordeaux used for the mushroom mixture is added. The wine is reduced and fish stock will be added.
We have a few sprigs of fresh thyme that we would add with our reduction of our red wine. And allow this to reduce. Allow this to reduce to the proper consistency. Our sauce is the right consistency. We will strain off the fish and the herbs and the shallots.
Presentation begins with sliced leeks that were stewed in butter. The sauce is finished with a little heavy cream and butter.
Here we take our shad. Our red Bordeaux sauce.
Boiled yellow beets complete the dish.
And a couple sprigs of fresh thyme.
Girard's Downtown opened quietly in early 1999, but in New Orleans the word gets out fast when it comes to good restaurants. One of the lead items at Girard's is the pastry of Lisa Anderson. It is very often straight ahead, no frills work that is refreshing these days. Here's her cherry strudel.
You're going to combine your almond paste, your sugar, and your almonds in a food processor.
This begins the almond cream, which is basically a pastry cream.
And you want to process them until they're pulverized. I mean, you just want a nice, fine, sandy consistency.
Then the processed mixture is combined with softened butter in an electric mixer with the paddle attachment, and eggs and flour are added.
As it starts to come together, add your eggs. And add in your flour. And then lastly, add your almond extract, or what we use here is a bitter almond essence, which is a little stronger.
Actually, this almond essence is a lot stronger. Assembly of the strudel starts with phyllo dough.
Going to butter each sheet of phyllo with clarified butter. It's best to work on the edges first and then move inward.
Both sheets are buttered and another layer goes on. The second layer is also buttered.
Sprinkle this second layer with sugar and some lightly toasted almonds.
Two more layers are added, one with the almond sugar combination and one with the almond cream.
Now, the trick to not ripping the phyllo when you're pressing the almond cream is to wet your hands. When you get it pretty much dispersed, then you could smooth it gently with a offset spatula. You want to sprinkle your plumped cherries over the almond cream.
These are dried cherries that were rehydrated by bringing apple juice to a boil, pouring over the cherries and letting stand for an hour.
Next, you're going to move your second stack of phyllo, place it over your cherries. And with the short side towards you, you're going to roll it in a jelly roll fashion. If you have a piece of parchment or a towel underneath, that kind of helps you to get started.
The strudel is painted with melted butter.
Place in a 350-degree oven and bake for 30 to 45 minutes until evenly golden brown.
The plate is garnished with creme anglaise and cherry syrup.
Welcome to Great Chefs, a culinary tour of the United States, featuring some of the country's finest chefs.
The appetizer is prepared by Clifford Harrison at the popular Bacchanalia in Atlanta. It is sautéed Maine lobster with sweet corn and mushrooms. Then Randall Wadener, who works in an unusual kitchen, presents an unusual entree. It's ancho chili glazed ostrich, which is similar to beef, served with a smoked onion relish. Finally, pastry chef Patrice Cayotte does dessert from Le Cirque at the Bellagio in Las Vegas. It's a lemon tart with passion fruit meringue and sorbet. The latitudinarian atmosphere at Bacchanalia in Atlanta reflects the owner chefs Anne Quatrano and Clifford Harrison. Both were trained in California, then worked on the East Coast from Nantucket to Manhattan. They moved to Atlanta in 1992. Chef Harrison offers this Maine lobster first course. The lobster is served with a ginger, garlic, rosemary vinaigrette. It also includes honey, soy sauce, rice wine vinegar, a little sesame oil, and peanut oil. Now the chef preps the lobster tail and claws.
What I do now is I take a stick of some sort and I insert it in the back of the lobster, because when I boil him, he'll bend. So this way it keeps the meat nice and straight so that you don't have any curled up meat. Boiling water, in it goes. This way, you're going to cook this lobster again, so we don't cook it all the way. This goes in there. And you just have to look at it. You have to actually look at the meat. You can see it from here. It turns a little opaque, and it gets a little hard. I'll let that go for a little while more.
The meat has been removed from the tail and claws.
Okay, we have a corn, which is going to go with the lobster. And I just cut it right off the cob, like so.
The sauté begins with clarified butter.
Take these two guys out. Just heat it up. We'll start off with the mushrooms and the corn. We'll put the lobster in. Very simple. The ginger vinaigrette I've taken that has been strained, and all I do is lightly heat it up. It's already pretty thick vinaigrette. That back. Just take a little touch of butter. What this butter does is it just glosses it a little bit, gives it a little, again, a rounder flavor. And that's all. The vinaigrette itself is pretty thick. Wait till this smokes a little. You can check it out by throwing one in. There you go. Throw those in. We're going to get these mushrooms a little crispy. Throw these mushrooms in. Probably don't need all of those. That's it. Corn. We're going to take a little bit of sunflower sprouts here, which are nice in the springtime. We also have a couple roasted organic beets. At this point, you might have to add just a little bit more clarified butter. You can just check into your pan to see if you need some more. I don't like to use too much. And that's it. Remember, the lobster's already been cooked, so you're basically just warming it up, then blanched off. We'll take the ginger vinaigrette, which has been warmed, and a little touch of butter added to it. Put it on the plate. We'll take a little bit of parsley oil that we made earlier. Drizzle that on the plate. The lobster is, you can feel it. It's already cooked through. It's clean. You want to. That's it. Take a little bit like that. We have a little bit of vanilla oil. Shake it up a little. Drizzle it on top. Around. This is sea salt, which I put through a grinder. A little bit of black pepper. And that's it.
One of the most remarkable kitchens that the great chef's crew has experienced is in Wheeling, Illinois, at the Weber Grill restaurant. Yes, Weber Grill is in your backyard. Randall Waidner is the chef, and instead of ranges, he cooks on huge kettle grills. Chef Waidner presents ancho glazed ostrich.
Okay, we're going to do ancho chili glazed ostrich with the smoked onion relish. First thing I'm going to do is demonstrate how to smoke the onions. Got 3 large Spanish onions. I've just peeled them. You want to set your grill up for indirect cooking. I have some hickory wood chips that you want to soak, and the reason why you want to soak them in water is you want them to smolder. You don't want them to burn hot. You just want the smoke. Okay, so what I'm going to do, I'm going to brush the onions with some olive oil. And just a little season right on top. Come over the grill. Just place the onions right in the middle.
Note that the coals are banked to the sides. This then becomes indirect cooking.
You want to just take your chips, just let them fall right into the fire. You want to make sure you get them down in. And you want to close your grill. You adjust your dampers on top so that the smoke just doesn't escape and it smolders and burns a little slower, and you get a nice low cooking temperature for the smoked onions. Onions take about 45 minutes, slow roast. Okay, the onions have finished smoking. You can see they've changed color a lot and they're nice and soft. What you want to do is just want to take them off, put them in the refrigerator and let them cool down.
After cooling, the onions are halved, peeled, and sliced. The relish also includes sliced green onions.
Chop your cilantro. Juice from 1 lime. A little bit of seasoned salt. Just a splash of balsamic vinegar. A little bit of olive oil.
Mix thoroughly and set aside. Now the chef deals with the ostrich.
This is a piece of ostrich that comes from the thigh. It's very lean, very tender. What I'm going to do is I'm going to brush it with a little ancho chili glaze. Ancho chilies are dried poblano peppers.
The glaze also contains chipotle peppers, chopped onions, garlic, brown sugar, honey, molasses, tomato paste, and water.
Then I'm going to just sear it
It's seared directly.
really quick.
After the meat is seared over direct heat, it's moved to the center of the grill and cooked indirectly for 15 to 20 minutes.
All right. And then what you want to do is you just want to keep brushing the ostrich with the glaze until it's done. I like to serve ostrich medium rare because it stays very nice and tender.
Let the ostrich rest after grilling.
Okay, and then to carve the ostrich, you want to carve it against the grain, and then this one, the grain is going this way, so I want to slice it this way. Serve it with a little of your smoked onion relish. Right on top. And I like to drizzle a little of ancho glaze.
The Macchioni family of Le Cirque in Manhattan have opened a property in Las Vegas at the Bellagio. Historically, they've always been partial to upwardly mobile French chefs like Daniel Boulud and Jacques Torres. At Bellagio, French pastry chef Patrice Cayote prepares this lemon tart and meringue.
So I'm going to show you first the way to make the sugar dough. So you have all the ingredients. We have the cake flour, the bread flour, the two sugar. I'm going to explain why I separate half the sugar. We have the butter, the eggs, lemon zest, and half vanilla bean, and a pinch of salt.
All the ingredients except the eggs and half the sugar are creamed in an electric mixer.
So you put on a mixer bowl, like that. Don't go too fast. And when the mixer starts, you're going to crack the eggs, the two eggs, like that. And that's the second part of the sugar. Why I do that? Because I'm going to whip the sugar with the eggs, and it's going to give a better texture at the sugar dough. It's going to be very, very crispy after. So what we do, we whip like that. Don't scare to whip. The time you whip your eggs, the butter, the flour, the sugar, the vanilla bean, and the zest sound slowly. Don't sound too much. So you mix. Give a nice texture to the eggs and the sugar. There is going to be a bit like fluffy. Like that. That part of the recipe is very important. It's the part you're going to give the crispy at the dough. All the butter, the particle of the butter, is going to mix with the flour, with the sugar. It's going to give a very nice texture at the sugar dough. So you see the egg white and the sugar start a little bit more white. So a little bit more. Like that. That's fine. Okay. So you see, it's like a very fine sound. You see also the piece of lemon is going to give a very nice flavor after the sugar dough. So what we do, put the eggs with the sugar like that. And you mix. Don't mix too much. That's the opposite of the, example, a bread dough or brioche dough. You want to give a lot of power. This one, you don't want too much power. You don't want your dough after strain in the oven. So you just mix a little bit, like that. That's it. Now you're going to keep the dough in the fridge, wrap on the plastic, and we keep in the fridge for a couple hours.
The chilled dough is rolled out.
Okay. Okay. And that's fine. So now you're going to, we have some circle like that, and you put a little bit of butter, or if you want some oil, but butter, I think that's the best way. We're going to cut some like that. Pick up that.
The tarts will be baked at 350 degrees for 10 to 15 minutes.
To roll the dough like that. And after with a knife, cut properly. So now, after the tart shell they bake, we're going to make the lemon cream. It's a very, very easy recipe. That's lemon juice, sugar, divided again in two parts, eggs, butter, and lemon zest. So what we do, we put the lemon juice, the lemon zest, butter. Okay. Then you're going to that. And half sugar. Okay. Now you crack the eggs. 5 eggs. Okay. Sorry. The second part of the sugar you put with the eggs, like that. Okay. And you mix together. When you put sugar with eggs or with yolk, make sure you whip immediately, because the sugar with the yolks make a chemical reaction and burn the yolks. So after you're going to have a very, very small piece of yolks, that's not very tasty. You know? So you whip. Sometimes you watch the lemon juice, your sugar and your butter. That's very, very simple recipe. It's one of the first recipe I make when I was young and I start pastry. I still use the same. That's very, very, very tasty, very creamy. And also it's very easy to make. It's possible you make that at home.
The lemon juice butter mixture is brought to a boil.
Butter, it's almost melt. Okay. So now, you see everything boil? What we do? Don't stop mix. That's very important, because if you go too fast and you don't mix, you're going to burn the eggs. That's the only maybe very difficult thing to realize at this recipe. So what we do, you mix together like that. We call that tempering. See, you mix. And we boil everything one more time.
The lemon mixture thickens quickly and is taken off the heat.
Okay, you see? So now what we need to do, we need to fill the tart shell immediately, because that cream starts strong very, very quickly. So you mix very well like that. Small ladle like that. And we're going to fill tart shell like that. Okay. You see, it's very, very creamy. Okay.
Chill the tarts for 30 minutes or more. The tarts are garnished with Italian meringue, which is beaten egg whites, sweetened with both sugar and simple syrup, heated to the soft ball stage. The meringue is flavored with the pulp and seeds of passion fruit.
Okay. You give a very nice flavor, but also you give a little bit of color, like yellow, orange color. It's going to be nice on a plate.
The meringue is piped onto the chilled tarts.
You turn your sheet pan like that. So, when this one is finished, we just put a little bit of sliced cinnamon. Give a nice looking and also a great taste. Okay?
Then the tarts go into a salamander or broiler to finish.
You're going to see the meringue. It's going to be fluffy, a nice golden color. See?
Garnish includes strawberries warmed in butter.
What we do, we put a little bit of sugar. That's very, very fast. That part of the recipe, you need to do that at last minute. You see? It's almost done. What we do, we put a little bit of balsamic vinegar, like that. At home, if you don't have a very old balsamic vinegar, what you need to do is like maybe reduce a little bit the balsamic first.
Strawberry puree garnishes the plate with the finished tart.
If you want very fancy, make very fancy, you put a very nice strawberry like that on the sugar. Okay? And we're going to serve with the strawberry sorbet. Okay? So you make a nice canal like that. Okay? Like that. Second dish. Okay?
Welcome to Great Chefs, a culinary tour of the United States, featuring some of the country's finest chefs.
The appetizer this time is prepared by Rick Tremonto in Chicago. It is wild rice risotto, which includes both wild and arborio rice, asparagus, and wild mushrooms. Then for the entree, we go south to Louisville, Kentucky, and Joe Castro at the Brown Hotel. He combines grits, hominy, and country ham with a lamb loin. Dessert is made by Doyle DeForest in New Orleans. He alternates a creamy strawberry Bavarian mixture with fresh strawberries in a small molded cake container. Rick Tremonto has been making culinary waves in Chicago for several years. So has his wife, Gail, a talented pastry chef. At taping time, they were both at Trio in Evanston. They have subsequently opened Brasserie Tea in Northfield. Chef Tremonto presents this first course, wild rice risotto. The chef will use both arborio and wild rice. The method for each is the same.
So we're going to saute some onions and some garlic. And we're going to put some arborio rice in here.
Arborio is short grain rice, often used in risotto.
We're going to coat the arborio with the onions and the garlic and the olive oil.
More olive oil is added.
We're going to hit it with some chicken stock. Just about enough to cover and let that start to absorb, and we're going to do that 3 times. We're going to do the same with our wild rice.
Wild rice has nothing to do with rice. It's a water-growing grain. The wild rice simmers until all the stock is absorbed. Then both rices are cooled. Before service, the cooked rices are combined with the other ingredients.
How about I lay these ingredients down that we're going to use? Blanched asparagus, chopped herbs, Parmesan cheese, butter, wild mushrooms.
The rices go into boiling chicken stock.
It's equal parts blanched wild rice and arborio rice. julienne, some chanterelles, some shiitakes, some cremini mushrooms. We're going to add the mushrooms. Blanched asparagus. Some butter. Some of the porcini broth, which is a wild mushroom.
Porcini is an Italian mushroom that's usually sold dried. The broth is a result of rehydrating the mushrooms.
Parmesan cheese. Some heavy whipped cream. We use whipped cream because it's a lot lighter than just throwing in plain dense cream. Just kind of fold that in. Now there's a little too much liquid in here, so I'm going to throw in a little bit more wild rice to absorb that. There it is. Little tomato right at the very end.
The risotto is presented in a small saucepan. Shaved Parmesan cheese.
A little bit of extra virgin olive oil.
The Brown Hotel in Louisville has a long history as the unofficial Derby headquarters. It is the official headquarters for Joe Castro, chef at the English Grill. With him, it's a family affair. His wife is a pastry chef, and his brother and brother-in-law are chefs. He now prepares roasted lamb loin.
Okay, there's 2 steps to our recipe, making the grits and the lamb. First, we're going to do the grits. Need to start with some brown butter. By browning the butter, it's going to give us that nutty character, also a homey essence to it all. We'll add our shallots. We'll caramelize these. Okay, now that they're nutty and brown, we can go ahead and add our country ham. There's only one country ham from Kentucky. Saute that. We'll add our peppers. Hominy, which is really indigenous to around Indiana and Kentucky. We'll saute these to allow the flavors to blend one to another. Then we'll deglaze with some chicken stock. Okay, we've come to a boil. Now we'll turn it down to a simmer. And we're going to slowly add our grits. Grits is a 2-to-1 ratio, very similar to rice. Okay, we're going to continue to stir these until they become nice and creamy. While that's cooking, we'll go ahead and chop our thyme. Again, we're using the herb at the very, very end because it does have that life force. Okay, wait till your grits are getting close. It's like polenta or making choux. They'll start pulling away from the edge. Once we've reached that point, we'll go ahead and add our thyme to let it bloom. Some fresh green onions. And we'll finish it with a little whole butter. Just stir that in.
Meanwhile, the lamb loin is seasoned before being seared in a hot pan.
I like to sear it in olive oil, just enough to coat the bottom of the pan. Lay the lamb away from you. You can see we're using the loin. By using the loin, we'll be able to cook it completely to your desired temp in the actual pan itself. So we'll turn it. What we're trying to do is give the meats a nice caramelization, give it a little sweetness.
The lamb is cooked entirely on top of the stove until medium rare.
We remove our lamb, let it rest. We're going to go ahead and cook our sugar snap peas, 50%, and our baby corn. Real quick. Set them with the lamb. At this point, if there's any caramelization left in the pan, once we brought it off with the peas and the corn, we're going to deglaze it with some lamb stock. We're going to let this simmer down until it coats the spoon. Now that this coats the spoon, we'll return our peas and corn to the jus. Add our tomatoes. And finish the sauce with some whole butter. Okay, to dress up our grits a little bit, we're going to quenelle them into the center of the plate. Our sauce is going to act as an active garnish, really. Again, we don't like to torture the food too much. We'll put that right in the center. Again, the sauce belongs on top of the meat. Just garnish with a little sauce around the rim of the plate.
When Doyle DeForest grew up in northern Louisiana, his grandfather owned a bakery, so it was not surprising that he drifted into a culinary career, specifically pastry. Early on, he worked under Kevin Graham and Shane Gorange at the Stella Windsor Court Hotel. Here is his strawberry Bavarian Jacquard.
Start off by mixing my eggs, combining all together, almond flour, and sugar. Mix it on medium-high for about 5 minutes or until it's light, fluffy, and light in color.
Beaten egg whites are folded in.
And gently fold in the meringue into your almond flour, sugar, and egg mix. You want to add your butter next. Fold in your butter. And then you want to incorporate your flour.
After the batter is incorporated, a small amount is reserved and cocoa powder is added.
Okay. 1 ounce of, roughly 1 ounce of your mix, you want to add about a 1/4 cup of cocoa. Combine the two together. You create a paste.
The paste is piped onto a silicone pad.
Then you want to create your own design by just freestyle over the sill pad.
This goes into the freezer to set up.
Now we're going to take the mix and spread the mix over the top, the plain mix that was left over, the reserve. Thin layer, straight over the top.
Bake at 375 degrees for 10 to 15 minutes. Now the chef starts the strawberry Bavarian by whipping 2 egg yolks and 2 ounces of sugar.
Until light in color and a ribbon consistency.
Then hot milk containing a scraped vanilla bean is tempered into the mixture.